Tonight, chaos grips Hong Kong. Riot police move in after protesters paralyze the airport as the violence escalates. We go in depth. How will this end?
It gives me an incredible amount of hope.
Have scientists found a cure for Ebola? The new treatment saving lives.
Thank you so much for flying me.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Pleasure. Can't wait.
Your private jet.
What it's like to be the only passenger on a commercial flight. Just think of the legroom. This is The National.
It is Wednesday in Hong Kong right now, and after days of escalating violence between pro-democracy protesters and police, the big question is, what will happen today? The situation is tense and the world is watching. Tuesday there ended like this, with batons and tear gas as riot police moved in on demonstrators camped out at the Hong Kong International Airport. Protesters went on the attack too, detaining men they say were spies for the Beijing government they're pushing back against. Authorities deny that. And caught in the middle of it all, passengers just trying to get out at one of the world's busiest airports. And here in Canada, no matter what side you're on, it's a nervous wait to see where things go from here. The chaos in the Chinese territory has dragged on for more than 2 months now. Sparked by fear, Beijing is trying to take more and more control over Hong Kong. And with the airport now at the center of the political unrest, the international community has no choice but to notice. Tonight, Hong Kong's airport authority said it now has an injunction to stop anyone obstructing airport operations. Tanya Fletcher takes us there.
Violence erupts at Hong Kong International Airport. Check-in counters closed, flights cancelled, the epicenter of political unrest as police clash with protesters.
We almost have a stampede because we were in such a panic. We were in such a blind fear of the police.
Demonstrators say what started as a peaceful sit-in quickly turned to chaos when riot police suddenly stormed the airport terminal armed with batons and pepper spray. One police officer even pulled out a gun when protesters went at him.
We were trying to stop the police from entering. I didn't really question what I was doing. I just want to let them know that what they're doing is wrong.
At one point, protesters detained a man they claimed was an undercover police officer. He was tied to a luggage cart as throngs of people crowded around. This was the second straight day demonstrators brought the airport to a standstill, taking their frustration and demands to the international stage. The protest started as a push against a controversial extradition bill that could see those accused of crimes sent to China. Ever since, Hong Kong's leader has been dogged by questions of just how much Beijing controls her.
Do you have the autonomy or not to withdraw the extradition bill?
Answer your question, please.
You have not answered the question. You've evaded the question.
Beijing warns these demonstrations are bordering on terrorism. Chinese state media has shown convoys of paramilitary police converging in the border city of Shenzhen. The unrest isn't just at the airport. Those who live in Hong Kong say it's divided the whole city.
Now, everyone's taking a side. Everyone is talking about this story. If you go to work in the morning, you don't know if your subway is going to even be full of protesters or not, and you don't know what's going to happen.
10 weeks in, with both sides digging in, the fear is this political crisis will only get more violent. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
It's not just students out there on the streets, but business people, lawyers, even religious groups. Hong Kong right now is a city of discontent. So what is fueling the anger? What began as a response to a proposed law allowing extraditions to China has morphed into an expression of deeper anxieties in the city. Frustrations have been growing in the 2 decades since the United Kingdom handed the city over to China. And since Xi Jinping became president in 2012, China has become more overtly authoritarian. Many see that as Beijing encroaching on the city's autonomy. Adding to that frustration, the influx of migrants moving in from mainland China. Many fear they are taking resources away from Hong Kong residents. Fears even that city's predominant language, Cantonese, is under threat. And then there's the economic anxiety. The wealth gap keeps widening. Hong Kong is the world's least affordable housing market. More than half the residents don't own a home, and young people are increasingly skeptical anything will change. Even the 2014 umbrella movement that sought to democratically elect their city's leader failed. And the clock is ticking. China is only legally committed to maintain Hong Kong's quasi-democracy until 2047.
So it's not the end game yet, and it's the infinity war or even infinity battle until 2047.
So many Hong Kongers are determined to fight before time runs out. For people in Canada who grew up in Hong Kong or have loved ones there, watching the turmoil from afar is tough. As Artie Poll shows us, while it's left some feeling helpless, it has pushed others to help.
Stop the violence to the young people, basically.
Mimi Lee hopes these messages written by Canadians will inspire protesters in Hong Kong.
And we do not stand with Hong Kong.
Lee lives in Toronto now, but is originally from Hong Kong and says watching what's unfolding back home is heart-wrenching.
That's not the Hong Kong that we grew up with. Police should be protecting citizens, and now they are not. People are actually scared when they see the police comes in.
She's channeling that frustration into action, organizing rallies in solidarity with protesters. Protesters like this Toronto man who doesn't want to be identified for fear his family in Hong Kong will be put in danger.
A lot of my friends actually asking how to apply for immigration. That's what everyone's thinking right now. If they have a family, that's what they're thinking.
At the Vancouver airport today, relief from people who just arrived from Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's pretty chaotic.
It's sad. It's sad. Everybody have very different opinion. It's far more complicated than what it is.
Complex and divisive, even within the Canadian Hong Kong community.
For the most part, it's a pretty divisive issue. I think there's a very ingrained Chinese attitude towards, stability and, personal prosperity over like these notions of democracy.
Mimi Lee suspects differing opinions in her family too. She has two sisters in Hong Kong and another sister and her mother in Canada.
There's really no point try to argue or, lose a friend over something that I can't see how I can change it.
But she won't let it deter her from rallying the community in Canada. She's already planning another event in Toronto this weekend to stand in solidarity with demonstrators back home. Artie Poll, CBC News, Toronto.
Mixed in with all the emotion in this chaos are tactics, strategies being used by Beijing as it tries to win this fight. And that is sparking concern about what could happen next. We'll get to that in about 15 minutes. And it's not just Hong Kong that where China is flexing its muscle. Beijing is increasingly throwing its weight around all over the globe, including pointedly in trade talks with the United States. And while that battle is nowhere near over, Washington did back down today from its threat to impose even more tariffs on Chinese imports. Peter Armstrong looks at what that means.
Global markets heaved a giant sigh of relief today. Indeed, the entire global economy has spent the summer increasingly on edge as the world's two biggest superpowers square off.
This feels like we were eyeball to eyeball with China, and the president just blinked.
Trump says he's really just standing up for American consumers.
We're doing this for Christmas season, just in case some of the tariffs would have an impact on U.S. customers.
If nothing else, backing down feeds into a narrative that the U.S. is an unreliable negotiator. Trump's tendency to shoot from the hip makes the U.S. sometimes seem erratic.
I think China has had a very steady position. It's uncertain what the U.S. position was. There's so much bluster, so much bluff.
China is the opposite. No bluff, no bluster. In Beijing, there's a perception that the U.S. is a threat to the global economy. If the U.S. insists on escalating the trade dispute, this government official says, China will have to take countermeasures. This analyst says the U.S. miscalculated how far China is willing to go.
I think it has the ability and the willingness to take more pain than the United States does. The U.S. is in a situation where voters will support this until it starts to hit them in the pocketbook, and I think that's exactly what we've seen today.
Two words will govern the U.S. and how it navigates these talks: election and recession. Trump wants to get reelected. To do that, he needs to avoid a recession. China, on the other hand, is willing to do anything it can to extend its influence all over the world, and it sees these talks as just part of that. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
And Donald Trump had some strong opinions about both that trade conflict and the Jeffrey Epstein saga today. Ian.
Adrian, the president weighed in once again on a conspiracy theory about the convicted sex offender's death. This as the investigation focused on two main points. First, how was Epstein able to die in custody? The second is linked to the allegations that put him behind bars to begin with. Paul Hunter takes us through it all.
The images are silent, shot by a drone, posted on YouTube, and oddly mesmerizing. It's Jeffrey Epstein's private island in the Caribbean, a place seemingly befitting any self-proclaimed billionaire, but in this case, one who was also a convicted sex offender, facing fresh sex crime charges when he apparently killed himself early Saturday in a jail cell in New York. This island, say his accusers, was where young girls were brought from around the world to be used as sex slaves. Look closely and you'll see New York police and FBI agents raiding the place yesterday. Seen clearly through the window, computers packed in red bubble wrap, ready to go, evidence freshly gathered, underlining the investigation into Epstein's world is far from over. As the lawyer for two of the women accusing Epstein told CBC News this morning, the number of Epstein's accusers is still growing.
We've been hearing from more every day, and my team and I have been reviewing their cases, reviewing their evidence, their witnesses, vetting, the whole process we go through in every case.
At the New York jail where Epstein reportedly hanged himself, 2 guards were today put on leave and the warden replaced in response to the death. But meanwhile, conspiracy theories live on. With word today, Epstein's death first came out, mysteriously enough, on 4chan, an online message board known for right-wing internet trolls. Then there's Donald Trump, seen here with Epstein in '92, who on the weekend retweeted the baseless suggestion Bill Clinton may have been involved in Epstein's demise. Today, he chose to emphasize Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet more than 24 times.
So you have to ask, did Bill Clinton go to the island? That's the question. If you find that out, you're going to know a lot.
And so on all of that and more, they search. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
The Prime Minister was talking about gun violence today in Toronto, where a rash of recent shootings have put Canada's biggest city on edge. There have already been calls for a nationwide ban on handguns, and politically, it might be a good strategy. But would a ban have a significant impact on violent crime? Ashley Burke takes a look.
This is more than just a courtesy call. It's a pre-election meeting in vote-rich Toronto, and one urgent issue is top of mind: guns.
We need action. But Mayor Tory and I agree that we can't simply arrest our way out of this problem.
We have to address the root causes of gun violence and get much tougher with criminals who often laugh at things, literally laugh at things like bail and sentencing practices.
But what the two leaders haven't agreed on is whether banning handguns is the answer. Toronto is on track to set a record for the highest number of shootings in a year since 2004. In one weekend alone, 14 separate shootings. The spike has renewed John Tory's call for a handgun ban. Trudeau made no promises, only dropped hints.
I very much look forward to the election campaign in which we will be able to share with Canadians our vision for how to keep Canadians more safe.
The Liberals have taken steps to enhance background checks, improve border control, and added restrictions on transporting guns.
A strengthening that the Conservatives have promised to roll back. We look forward to the very next time Parliament is sitting, hopefully under a Liberal government, where we will be able to introduce further measures to strengthen measures against guns.
In a statement, the Conservatives say that Liberal policies senselessly target law-abiding gun owners. Criminals do not register their firearms, and they will not comply with arbitrary bans. One expert says a ban on handguns won't stop gang-related gun violence.
We live next door to the largest weapons market in the world. People will just simply drive across the border and obtain their firearms there and then bring them back to Canada.
So why won't the Prime Minister take action now? Justin Trudeau wouldn't answer that question today, saying that laws can only be passed when Parliament is sitting, and that won't happen until after the election. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Guns won't be the only difficult campaign issue for the Liberals, of course. There is anger, particularly in Western Canada, over carbon taxes. You may have already seen some anti-Liberal billboards paid for by political action committees, which are supposed to remain separate from political parties. As Bonnie Allen reports, some are wondering what this advertising says about the upcoming campaign.
When this billboard popped up in Regina, directly targeting Saskatchewan's only Liberal member of Parliament, he wasn't impressed.
It's a kind of ugly American way of campaigning. It doesn't really fit with the traditions and the values that are pretty typical here in Saskatchewan.
Similar billboards have gone up in Edmonton and Calgary targeting Alberta's 3 Liberal MPs. More are slated for Manitoba and some swing ridings in Ontario. They're paid for by a political action committee known as a PAC that's touting Western alienation.
It's aimed at the Liberals because they've done significant harm to Western Canada, its industries and its way of life. It's desperate. It's increasingly desperate what's going on here, and Eastern Canada doesn't understand that.
Leading up to the election, PACs must now register their donors and their expenses with Elections Canada. In this case, it's Conservative allies fueled by oil and gas money. The West Watch campaign rails against the carbon tax, stalled pipeline projects, job losses, and strained diplomatic relations with China that's hurting farmers.
He's a yes man to the 1%.
They're going up against other PACs, such as the left-leaning Engage Canada.
People look at the power that PACs have in the United States and the deep influence they have and the influence of money and go, is this happening in Canada? We have a very different regulatory framework.
Under new rules, third parties can spend about $1.5 million on ads targeting an individual or a party, and less than $15,000 in any one electoral district. But social media is hard to track.
And I think everyone's worried that we are looking at an ugly campaign.
I've been involved in the political process long enough to roll with the punches.
In this case, the punches came early and not from a formal political opponent. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Regina.
Here's some of the other stories we're watching tonight on The National. Police in New Brunswick have confirmed a missing 19-year-old man is a victim of homicide. Corey Daniel Sisson was last seen about 2 weeks ago on the north side of Fredericton. Today, investigators confirmed his body was found in a wooded area about a 15-minute drive away in Noonan. Police say the persons or people responsible are no risk to the general public. A 2-year-old girl is among 4 people who have suffered serious burns in a house explosion in Brampton, Ontario. Around 1:30 this afternoon, neighbors said they heard a loud bang.
Within like a few seconds, I heard a small child crying so loud, so I ran back to the backyard to see if everything was okay, and then I see the people yelling inside too. I saw the back side of the house, it was all falling down.
Homes on either side have been evacuated, and no word yet on the cause.
We are also keeping an eye on the Democratic Republic of the Congo tonight, where there is new hope in the battle against Ebola. That's outside a treatment center in Goma, where people cheered and sang songs as a mother and child walked out, both apparently cured of the deadly hemorrhagic fever. They were treated with new anti-Ebola drugs that show survival rates as high as 90% in a clinical trial. Christine Birak now on whether this will be a turning point in the outbreak.
You don't often hear the word cure, but it's being used to describe 2 experimental Ebola drugs. Both are now being offered to patients infected with the deadly virus.
There's no doubt that this is a major advance. This is something we've never had before.
A study found when patients were treated within 3 days of being infected, 94% of those given the Regeneron drug survived, as did 89% of patients taking monoclonal antibody 114. Results so impressive the trial was stopped. 2 other less effective drugs were dropped, including ZMapp, which was largely developed by Canadian scientists.
All these other treatment, Regeneron, RD114, and everything else that is coming up because ZMapp was a trailblazer.
So what makes these new drugs better? Both require only a single dose. Neither needs to be stored frozen like the older drugs did, making them easier to transport in hot temperatures. Where they differ is in how they fight the virus. Monoclonal antibody 114 uses a single antibody taken from the blood of an Ebola survivor. Regeneron's drug attacks the deadly virus using 3 antibodies. Each can bind to different sites on the virus, increasing the chances of blocking off a mutated Ebola virus.
For the first time, we have something that we can use to directly fight against the virus. And so for me, that's incredibly, it gives me an incredible amount of hope.
The current Ebola outbreak in Congo is the second largest in history, killing at least 1,800 people and infecting about 2,800. Doctors say controlling the spread of the disease has been hampered by militia violence and local resistance to outside help.
So we are hoping that with these new results that show such promise that we can be very convincing now to the community, for the population of the DRC to accept to come to the treatment units, because if they come early, their chance of survival is really good.
Still, these new drugs won't get rid of Ebola, but many hope they might help stop these outbreaks from turning into major epidemics. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead on The National, we go in depth on the Hong Kong protests, the tactics at play, and what could happen next.
And later, a private jet experience without the private jet. What happens when you're the only passenger to board a plane?
Will the only passenger on this flight kindly board at this time? Mr. Peony?
Yes, I'm coming.
China's communist government and Hong Kong's protesters can agree on this much about the unrest, now in its 10th week. The turmoil is growing, the violence is intensifying, the city is facing its most serious crisis in decades. What began in June as weekly protests focused on a bill which would allow extradition from Hong Kong to China has now escalated into daily and often violent clashes calling for greater democracy and less control by Beijing. That's because residents in Hong Kong have enjoyed far greater freedoms than those on the mainland. Hong Kong is technically a part of China, but it has operated under what's known as one country, two systems since 1997, when the former British colony was handed back to Chinese rule. The city has its own social, political, and legal system. So now, many in the city of 7 million are furious at police, their behavior seen as heavy-handed. Those views aren't universal, though. Some are dismayed that a few protesters have turned to violence. Others are worried this will damage Hong Kong's status as a financial hub. Beijing has issued barely veiled threats, releasing a dramatic propaganda video showing off its army's capabilities in an anti-riot drill. Other statements have been far more explicit.
并开始出现
Yesterday saying it sees signs of terrorism in the protests, warning demonstrators they deserve severe punishment.
We are still capable of resolving this crisis.
For now, Hong Kong's leader says she still has the trust of Beijing. There are frankly few good options to end the chaos in Hong Kong. Officials are probably hoping that students going back to school in September and maybe the exhaustion of nonstop protests will take the steam out of the movement. But a deployment of military remains possible. Chinese army vehicles have been spotted at the border with Hong Kong, stoking fears of a looming violent crackdown. That last resort could very well change everything. So let's take a closer look now at Beijing's tactics. What could happen next? Lynette Ong is a China expert at the University of Toronto. Gordon Holden is the director of the China Institute at the University of Alberta. So let's talk about that phrase, signs of terrorism. I presume those words do not get thrown around casually. So what are the implications of them? What's the intent behind them, Lynette?
Well, there are two key intentions. That phrase was recently used on the region in China called Xinjiang. There's a very serious terrorist situation in Xinjiang a couple of years ago, where some people were killed at the train station. And because of that, China actually built an entire repressive apparatus in Xinjiang to deal with what they call terrorists. But more importantly, I think that word terrorism was meant for domestic audience, which is setting the stage for something yet to come. The things that is going to come is the justification of very tough repressive actions against protesters in Hong Kong, because they see that as a threat not against the regime itself, but also a terrorist act against the population in Hong Kong.
Is that how you interpret it, Gordon?
I would say that the visualization of Chinese military vehicles moving and the terms such as terrorism helps prepare the Chinese people in the eyes of the Chinese authorities for an eventual action. In other words, this wouldn't come out of the blue. This would have been something which they have carefully set the stage for, they have prepared for, and then when it does occur, if it does, there will be a greater acceptance and less perhaps unease at this taking place. It will still be a major tremor. Chinese people are smart. They read the tea leaves. They will know that this is a very big deal indeed. Hong Kong is, unlike Xinjiang, an absolutely critical part of the Chinese economy.
Presumably this is a warning to the rest of the world too, yes?
Absolutely. I think that it's the other international community, the Canadian government, the US government, recognizes that when you move troops, when you do move things on the ground, not just words, it opens the door to the possibility of armed action by the armed forces of the People's Liberation Army, and that's a big escalation from where we have been at until very recently.
Can I just ask you about that shift in tactics, that military shift in tactics? You mentioned that those images of a Chinese military convoy near the border. Gordon, is that actually a real possibility?
It is a possibility. I don't think that decision has yet been taken by Beijing. I think it's on the table, and it could be implemented very quickly. And those vehicles which we have seen, those are vehicles which are to large measure specifically designed for urban crowd control situations. These aren't the tanks used at Tiananmen. These are capable vehicles that have capacity for tear gas, for other gases, with their water cannon. It's been 30 years since Tiananmen, and the Chinese military have been refining their capacity to deal with crowds in a largely non-lethal manner, although the dangers of casualties is always there.
Lynette, what sort of shift in tactics do you see on the ground in Hong Kong?
There has been an escalation of harshness of repressive actions, but this is not, I don't see that as Beijing shifting the ground at all. This is Hong Kong government shifting the ground. It's actually very clear to me that what Beijing's strategy is, which is to outsource this, to delegate this to Hong Kong government, so that the Hong Kong government gets all the blame and the cost of people blaming the Hong Kong government for excessive use of police violence, and the benefits of peace, of potential peace, of repressing these protest actions are actually being enjoyed by Hong Kong as well as Beijing. So this is very smart from the perspective of the authorities in Beijing.
Okay, so Gordon, while we're talking about tactics, if we talk about sort of the propaganda here, it seems like a month ago the approach of Beijing was to just not discuss these protests and just pretend they weren't there. How is that shifting?
Well, it's shifted quite dramatically over the period of the last 2 months. Beijing was actively suppressing any news of the disturbances, particularly because when you had these particularly hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, that's a sort of what they call color revolution, that particularly makes Beijing authorities nervous because of the chance that might somehow be a contagion within China itself. They've now morphed into a position where they're being open about what they've described as the chaos in Hong Kong, and they're being open about the means which they have at their disposal to deal with it, should it be necessary, in their view, for Beijing to intervene.
Is it being open about it, or is there a persuasive element here? I mean, how are they characterizing the protesters in Beijing, Lynette?
You know, I think the dynamics have actually changed over the last 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks ago, I think the protesters have the alignment, unlike in the umbrella movement, which died out because they do not have widespread support. But I think the escalation of violence, particularly over the last 24 hours, where you see protesters beating up a civilian, supposedly from Shenzhen, from PRC. And I think to a lot of people, that kind of break the threshold. So I think it's a bit of a turning point that they have actually pushed themselves into a corner, which then a lot of people see justify of repression against violence, because we need to have the rule of law restored at some stage.
Okay, for last question, you said something interesting there, being pushed into a corner. I mean, arguably, Beijing has also been pushed into a corner, and I don't see how that ends well. Where do you think this is going? Gordon, start with you.
Sure. Well, there are three options. One is that three possibilities in my view. One is that the Hong Kong government and the police are able to get the situation in hand, and that might be. The second would be that the support for the protesters begins to diminish, undercutting their actions as people become fed up with the disruptions. And the third is the actual military intervention of the PLA, or the People's Armed Police. Each one of those has a different aspect, but the last one, military intervention, would have huge costs for Beijing as well, in reputation and potentially in economic terms.
Do you agree?
Well, I'm pretty sure that, you know, I think Beijing is going to resolve this in the next week or so, within the next week, either directly or via Hong Kong government. It's quite likely that they're going to continue with this current strategy of repressive actions via Hong Kong government, where they actually minimize the cost while enjoying the benefits. Whether or not they would do it using direct military intervention, I think is a bit of a question mark, because that would actually put a lot of cost of legitimacy on Beijing government. And I think, but there's no doubt that in the eyes of the international community, you see violence on social media, right? And like people getting blind because of police firing tear gas or bullets at people, at very, very young people. This is just going to radicalize the movement, and they might not have the power to fight back in the next week. 10, 15 years later, it's going to come back and bite the government. This is going to have long-term implications for not only for Hong Kong, but for China.
For Tibet, for Taiwan,
Precisely,
for the Uyghurs.
For Greater China.
Okay, Lynette Ong, Gordon Holden, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still ahead on The National, the message Alberta farmers want to get out as their province looks to repeal its safety rules.
They tried to fit us, into a box that was built for construction or forestry, and one size does not fit all.
A heated debate is unfolding in Alberta, and it's about an overhaul of safety regulations. On one side, farmers who say the rules are inflexible and don't address their unique needs. On the other side, safety advocates worried that changes will erode protections for workers. As Carolyn Dunn tells us, pleasing both may not be possible.
On the McFarquhar farm, summer days are filled preparing for September's harvest. Today, Cameron McFarquhar is getting their combine up to snuff.
His crops are a little bit delayed.
That gives his dad, Bill McFarquhar, plenty of time to think about what he wants in Alberta's new farm safety legislation. He's not against insurance coverage or safety standards, but he just doesn't think the current legislation works for the agriculture industry.
They tried to fit us, into a box that was built for construction or mining or forestry or the resource industry, and one size does not fit all.
Even before the NDP enacted Bill 6 in 2016, it was controversial. Unlike every other province in the country, Alberta farmers weren't subject to any occupational health and safety regulations, nor any mandatory carriage of workers' compensation insurance. Having it imposed without enough consultation, many said, was a threat to their livelihood.
We're not going to come up here and preach to you guys what needs to happen.
So the new provincial government is on a listening tour. Some farmers want the choice between carrying WCB or private insurance. Many want safety standards that are written specifically for agriculture.
When we introduce the legislation, it's going to be something that actually works for farms and farm workers.
But don't send us back into the dark ages.
Philippa Thomas is a farm safety advocate. In 2006, while working in a horse stable, she got a small cut that led to flesh-eating disease and a rare nerve disorder. She has lived in agonizing pain ever since. Thomas is lobbying to ensure the new farm safety legislation doesn't lower the standards in place since 2016.
If I do nothing else in my life and I leave this earth tomorrow, that I know that I have done something worthwhile, protected these workers.
Albertans will find out when the government introduces its version of the farm safety legislation in the fall. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, near Cremona, Alberta.
Still ahead on the National, you've heard of electric cars, but what about electric planes? The Canadian company is working to create a more sustainable future for the aviation industry.
Leveraging the battery power that you have on board to burn as little fuel as possible. So really more economical way to fly, burning less fuel, but also producing less emissions.
I'm Jamie Poisson. Tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, Susan Ormiston pops by to talk about Boris Johnson's time as Prime Minister and what's next for Brexit. You can download us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. Russian authorities have called off the evacuation of a village near the site of a nuclear accident. The explosion happened last week in the country's north, and the Russian government won't say whether it was nuclear, but Western intelligence sources say it was likely a failed missile test. Authorities initially said there was no spike in radiation, but they now say levels were 16 times higher near the test site. 7 people were killed in the explosion, 5 of them nuclear scientists who were buried yesterday. Adding to the confusion, locals in a nearby village were today told to evacuate. That was called off hours later, with officials saying the military had canceled upcoming drills. Dramatic video coming out of Sydney, Australia, showing how members of the public apprehended a suspect in a daytime knife attack using nothing more than chairs, a milk crate, and a crowbar.
They were significantly brave people. To approach a person with the mindset of obviously what this person did, with clear evidence of a stabbing previously, these people are heroes.
The attack, which police say was isolated and random, left 1 woman dead and another injured. Opera legend Placido Domingo is facing an investigation over sexual harassment claims. The Associated Press says allegations stem as far back as the late 80s. Domingo, a multiple Grammy Award winner, allegedly pressured women into sexual relationships by offering them job opportunities and punished them professionally if they refused. A total of 9 women have come forward. Domingo has denied the accusations.
So sure, flying may be the fastest way to get from point A to point B, but that convenience comes at a cost. Air travel is a big contributor to climate change, responsible for about 2% of global carbon emissions. So tonight, as part of an ongoing CBC series, In Our Backyard, Jacqueline Hansen looks at some of the Made in Canada solutions.
For decades, the same routine: fuel up and take off. But Harbour Air's old seaplane technology is getting a jolt of innovation. It's going electric.
We've basically stripped everything out of this aircraft.
Goodbye noisy piston engine and fuel tanks. Hello batteries.
There's lots of room in here for them, but they are substantially heavier.
It's a catch-22 when trying to electrify aircraft. The heavier the batteries, the more energy the plane needs to fly. But the BC-based airline's shortest flights could be doable.
Most of its routes are within half an hour of the original destination. So that enables us to use this technology a lot sooner than others.
In Ontario,
yeah, it looks like there's a lot in there. And that's because
a father and son want to combine old and new.
It's the world's most expensive model airplane, I think.
This is a prototype of the Horizon Aircraft's hybrid plane. The 5-seater aircraft will be able to switch from gas to electric or use both at the same time.
Leveraging the battery power that you have on board to burn as little fuel as possible. So really more economical way to fly, burning less fuel, but also producing less emissions.
But it's being designed for people with a budget for a personal plane, not the average flyer.
This is jet fuel, and this over here is ethanol.
Researchers at the University of Toronto Institute for Aerospace Studies are looking for solutions for the entire industry.
There we go.
From figuring out jet fuel blends that produce less emissions to finding ways to cut back on fuel with lighter materials and aerodynamic designs that create less drag.
We use these kinds of model in our wind tunnel.
Right here. Testing that could ultimately benefit the environment and entice airlines.
There's a hope that if we do things properly, then in the long run, we're still going to be able to fly aircraft and have a reduced impact on the environment. And that's going to require innovations in all kinds of things.
Travelers are also under pressure to reduce their own carbon footprint.
To fly more responsibly.
A flight shaming movement has taken off, encouraging people not to fly for the planet's sake.
Could you take the train instead?
Even the Netherlands-based airline KLM is telling people to fly less. Progress towards reducing the total environmental impact of flying is being made, some of it on the ground. Vancouver's airport is swapping gas-powered buses and baggage carts for electric.
It costs a little more. An electric co-bus is more expensive than a regular bus, and there is a premium, but we're investing in the right ways, and it makes a difference. For us, reducing our carbon footprint is worth it.
Over the past 12 years, the airport authority says it has cut its emissions by 30%. And a lot could happen in the air over the next 2 years. Horizon plans to build a full-size version of its hybrid plane. Harbour Air hopes to test its electric prototype and eventually get passengers on board. It's uncharted territory, though, so there could be setbacks. Still, part of a growing effort to propel the carbon-intensive airline industry towards a more sustainable future. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
And given that, this is awkward. Up next on The National, how a passenger got a plane all to himself.
Thank you so much for flying me.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Pleasure. Can't wait.
Your private jet.
Yes.
That's next in our moment. But first, in case you missed it, there are benefits to being an NBA world champion. The fame, the money, closing the circle on a difficult childhood. Toronto Raptors Serge Ibaka took that personal journey this week with the storied Larry O'Brien trophy at his side. Ibaka posted this video from Brazzaville, that's the capital of his native Congo, enjoying a meal at the very restaurant where he once begged for scraps. Ibaka spent years on the streets after his mother died and his father was imprisoned.
No food, sleeping on the street. I didn't have nothing.
Now, 2 decades later, he is living proof that anything is possible. Unsurprisingly, his hometown loves him. Maybe it's that early experience with hunger and hardship that led to Ibaka's now famous passion for food and humor.
Hungry are you?
His popular YouTube series, How Hungry Are You?, is both a celebration of cooking and a platform to prank his friends and teammates. Every episode ends with a surprise meal. Sometimes it's delicious.
It's good, bro.
Sometimes it's bugs.
What is... Yo!
But for this talented, funny man this week, there truly is no place like home.
Do you like air travel? Certainly there can be frustrating moments, long security lines, delays, cramped seats, but sometimes a little magic happens. When New Yorker Vincent Payon first heard that his flight home was being canceled, his heart sank. But then Delta Airlines offered him two options, an afternoon or an evening flight. He picked the evening, and his unexpectedly good call is our moment.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to board flight to Salt Lake City from gate 5.
I was like, yeah, I'm on this flight. And she said, you're the only one, so we don't need to make an announcement. And I went, oh, make the announcement.
Will the only passenger on this flight kindly board at this time?
That's me. I was chatting with the flight attendant, and then I looked over and saw that they were unloading big sandbags, and I was like, "What's that about?"
So we're just adding weight. We're just adding weight to the plane because there are no people.
Good evening, Vincent, and welcome aboard.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to taking care of you today.
Before takeoff, I just walked in and put my hand out and shook their hands, and they were just super sweet about it.
Thank you so much for flying me.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Every step of the way thereafter, people just played along so beautifully. It was just a great team of people who all found it just as funny as I did.
Okay, they're all super good sports. I was watching this on Twitter. Interestingly, so many people say this has happened to them, and like a full disclosure, my mom and I were the only people on a flight to Sault Ste. Marie not that long ago. I just really don't get how it happens, though.
So it wasn't, I was wondering when that happened for you and your mom. Not that long ago?
No, not that long ago.
My experience was, here's how long ago mine was. It was on Canadian Pacific. They had just started a flight from Montreal to Halifax. I was in university. My friends and I went on board. There were 3 of us. Only 2 others on this huge jet. We felt like, I don't know, like we were hockey stars or something. It was great. Anyway, just think about how wonderful air travel can be. That is The National for August 13th. Good night.
Good night.